Hello and welcome to Anime Lore and Theory video. I'm Shergok, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at why Ainz turned a fellow adventurer into an Elder Lich, and essentially let him experience his end twice. But before we're going to take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as say thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's get to the topic at hand. Ainz disguised himself as Mormon the Dark Knight to infiltrate the fortress city of Ivar and gather additional information after the events in Karn village. Ainz knew at this point relatively little about the nations and the society of the New World, having only been in this new world for a few dozen hours. The limited knowledge that the villagers of Karn could share with him about the world was not sufficient to give him a clear picture of the situation that Nazarick was even in, and therefore the infiltration of human society was necessary. And also, Ainz wanted to build up a reputation as a hero while disguised as Mormon the Adventurer. He planned to eventually reveal his true identity, saying, "Hey, I'm undead, but I'm also your hero. See, I pose no threat to you." In other words, Ainz wanted to use his position in the seemingly neutral adventurer guild for his own purposes and his own ends. And he wasn't the only one with such intentions. Officially, the Adventurer Guild, founded by the Theocracy of Slain, was meant to unite all humans in the fight against the monsters of the New World. Due to a fanatical population composed of religious zealots, the Theocracy was unable to unite humanity militarily and bring them under its rule alone. If they had attempted to do so, and were indeed successful, the population would have attacked neighboring states like the Arkland Council State, which is under the protection of the 5 Dragon Lords, including Platinum himself, on its own, thus provoking an apocalyptic war with them. And the same applies to a potentially conquered Empire of Baharut and the borders with the city-state alliance of Karnasus, or the Dragon Kingdom, which borders the Beastman nation. At the same time, this religious fanaticism was desired and encouraged by the Theocracy, as it united all the people in the land behind a common cause, the fight to eliminate humanity's predators, and eventually reign supreme over the entire New World. This was not something they could simply give up. In other words, if the Theocracy didn't want to be in a permanent state of war against a multitude of enemies, it needed buffer states that would establish stable borders with non-human territories. Thus, a military organization was needed that was dedicated to protecting humanity in the absence of the Theocracy's own forces, recruiting people from all states, regardless of where they were, and allowing the Theocracy to unite humanity behind their own cause, the protection of humanity and the fight against all non-humans. In short, the Adventurers Guild was a necessary thing to create. And this guild was likely founded after the war against the so-called evil deities, NPC monsters from Yggdrasil Online, to achieve exactly this very purpose. And as mentioned, officially, this guild was supposed to remain strictly neutral towards any kingdoms and nations that it was in, so that its heavily armed and battle-hardened warriors would be tolerated and allowed to have essentially free reign in dealing with monsters. And to motivate people to fight against the monsters of the New World, a part of history was rewritten. The 13 heroes, about whom bards sing today, were not actually just 13 individuals. There were many more. And they were not all human either, besides Evil Eye, who was a rainbow eye when she was alive, and is now an undead vampire princess, Platinum's armor, and many more, like the Dwarf King, who left his land 200 years ago to avenge the devastation of his capital city. Humans weren't the only persons and the only species within this very, very diverse troop. However, the myth of a team of adventurers from various places and various backgrounds who together defended the New World against the Dark Gods, invading from the outside, was not in the theocracy's best interest. And therefore the team, which consisted of heteromorphs, humanoids and demihumans, was rewritten and reinvented as an all-human force that defended humanity against all kinds of beasts, whether it be heteromorphs or demihumans, or the evil gods. And their deeds are now sung by bards to inspire other humans to follow their example, to become heroes themselves, and enlist in the Adventurers Guild as adventurers. But in doing so, the theocracy overlooked, or more likely deliberately ignored and accepted, the darker aspects of human nature, accepting criminal activities and rogue behavior, both inside and outside of the guild, as a necessary evil in the fight to protect humanity. Because naturally not all guild members adhere to the law and the orders. Some develop a strong aversion to being commanded by a soulless, bureaucratic, supranational organization, resenting these seemingly arbitrary rules that seem to neither come from a king, or a nobleman, or an emperor, or from their own midst, their own fellow men and their own villages. Who could accept which missions, the ranks, the restrictions, and the stance on healing magic, which they were never allowed to use to heal villagers, as the temples which financed themselves by selling healing magic at exorbitant prices would otherwise send assassins after them, if they did. And these were all contentious issues. While some adventurers like Larkius ignored the rules, other adventurers, known as workers, broke away completely from the guild and then took any job on, no matter how illegal or dangerous it is, as long as the price was right. Financial aspiration, a pure love for combat, and conflicts with the guild officials were all reasons why some adventurers chose this path. Naturally, this brought all sorts of problems, and was one of the reasons why guild members didn't enjoy a particularly high standing among the nobility and the powerful. But even within the Adventurers Guild, there were similar incidences. Larkius, a scion of a significant noble family and leader of the adamantite-ranked adventurer team Blue Roses, did not adhere to law and order. She healed the wounded and the poor, who otherwise could never ever afford healing magic on their very own, and therefore was initially hunted by Tia and Tina before the two assassins joined her team. She also did not maintain the neutrality that every adventurer was supposed to uphold meticulously. On the contrary, she fought more or less half-openly alongside the Golden Princess, Renna, against the Eight Fingers and their helpers and accomplices, as there was simply no other way to deal with the nobles who supported this criminal syndicate, or were even part of them. This was something that the officials at the Adventurer Guild's leadership were of course well aware of, but Larkius' status as an adamantite-ranked adventurer, combined with being a powerful noble and friends with literal monarchy, was enough to exert so much pressure on the guild's leadership that they had to turn a blind eye and pretended that Blue Roses officially maintained its neutrality. They were of course well aware of Larkius' activities, but no one wanted to lose such a powerful adventurer team of the highest rank. For a nation, especially one with only 2 or 3 adamantite-ranked adventurer teams in the entire nation, which again is the norm, the departure of a powerful adventurer, even just a single one, would be a significant issue, because these adventurers are crucial for national defense, as they act as elite troops, and elite troops that are essentially free of charge, as in they earn their income through the guild system and the guild jobs, and are thus privately funded, yet they still defend the state against threats that would otherwise require a small army to deal with on a more or less daily basis. And this exit is exactly what happened to the Baharut Empire after it submitted to the Sorcerer Kingdom and became a vassal state. When it became known that Ainz seemingly controlled the Emperor already, simply because he appeared in the arena where Jerknif met with the representatives of the theocracy of Slain. The Silver Thread Birds, an adamantite-ranked adventurer team, became furious and left the Empire, and they are now located in the city-state alliance of Carnassus. In other words, even though they are supposed to be officially neutral, high-ranking adventurer teams can exert pressure on the entire state that they reside in, just by their mere presence or absence alone, all without breaking any rules. But there are far more trivial reasons why the guild can be a source of conflict, and one of those is simply the pursuit of fame and petty rivalries. It's clear that normal adventurers of the Iron rank were not particularly well regarded. Most adventurers were also not much stronger than an ordinary soldier, and their life of fighting and most likely dying at a young age was not particularly glorious or particularly well paid. But for the good, organized and competent teams, despite all of the political difficulties and the mistrusts that was directed at the guild, it was no problem to build an extremely comfortable life and earn a great deal of respect and admiration. Anyone who spent several years in the adventuring life and had the necessary talent and skill, the experience gained through decades of fighting that could actually grow stronger and stronger over time, and became a competent team leader, could rise high, from copper to iron to silver and gold, to finally mithril. And then you had a life that was unattainable for most non-nobles. All earned through your own work alone. Not only did you have vast amounts of gold, and you could stay in luxurious inns and taverns, but you also began to accumulate political power and prestige. If things go wrong, if there's danger on the horizon, the people would call upon you, because you're their hero already. Majors, village chiefs, and chamberlains now knew you. Representatives of the Merchant Guild and the other guilds like the Magician's Guild politely sought your advice and aid, and society treated you as part of the elite, even though you were a low-born villager. And all of this despite not even being of the highest rank, so there was much more social mobility and much more prestige and money to be had if you're on the rise already. Naturally, this brought a great sense of pride in achieving such an outstanding rank with it, which is why it was so infuriating for Ivar, the leader of Team Kralgra, and one of only 4 mithril-ranked adventurer teams in the fortress city of Irantel, which was even more militarized and close to the Cuts Plain than any other major city, and thus closer to danger, to have this new upstart competitor among their ranks. Ainz Olgon, or rather Momon after his victory over the zombie hordes and over Clementine and Khajiit of Zurnon, and after subduing the vice king of the forest, quickly gained enormous fame. He became the new star in the city of Irantel. Even though no one had seen his face yet, people were talking about him, as within a week he had accomplished what Ivar had taken his entire life to achieve, stringing together enough heroic deeds and victories to become a well-known hero among the population. For Ivar, this was deeply personal. Momon's rise was an attack on his entire self-image, on his live stream. Just as Fluda Paradane had been fascinated by magic since childhood and was determined to learn more and more, after a caster came to his village, Ivar had been fascinated by the stories of the 13 heroes and their heroic deeds since that day bards came visiting his village and sang about the heroes, the legendary 13 warriors that protected humanity from all sorts of dangers and defeated the dark gods. From that day on, Ivar was captivated by the idea of becoming a hero himself and being sung about by the bards, being recognized as someone extraordinarily. And so he worked tirelessly for many years on his rise, always striving to go higher and higher. And now the status he had already achieved and the respect that he had earned were threatened. This newcomer had arrived, someone from outside, from a distant land, and now had taken everything from him. He now occupied the spotlight that Ivar thought of his own. This new arrival was being treated as a hero, a once-in-a-century talent. The women were talking about him, and the man wanted to be like him, and to be with his companion, Nabe, who had earned by now the nickname of Beautiful Princess. Ivar was reduced to just another bystanding adventurer among many. His dream of standing in the spotlight was snatched away by this upstart in less than a week. And he couldn't just let this go. When all the powerful adventurer teams gathered and were briefed about the fact that a powerful vampire was causing trouble near Ivantel, referring to the brainwashed child here, and Momon warned everyone that they would die fighting this vampire, whom he claimed to have been hunting for many, many years. Ivar couldn't accept this. There was no way he could stand down and let Momon take all of the credit for defeating this vampire. He had to act, or Momon would steal away all the fame that Ivar thought of rightfully his. Ignoring Momon's warning, he insisted on taking his team on the mission, not wanting to let this filthy upstart to take all of the glory, and he refused to be surpassed and watch as Momon rose to adamantite rank, thereby degrading him to just some sort of adventurer that couldn't make it. He couldn't help but to join the battle. And that wasn't all. He planned to spread rumors about Momon that would damage his reputation, use every contact he had to ruin this upstart's life. Soon, he would be hated and driven out of the city, even the entire country, thus eliminating an important rival. And if this is not enough to eliminate him, he himself would dispose of him, claiming that he would have died in the fight against the vampire. That he failed, where Ivar and his team succeeded. But Ivar could not foresee why he wouldn't survive this mission, why he was warned by Momon. Instead of fighting a vampire, his team was wiped out by the Floor Guardians of Nazarick, and he himself was confronted by a young elven girl with a wooden staff. Ivar, as a ranger and forest stalker, had heard that dark elves lived in the great forest of Top, so he wasn't particularly surprised when this seemingly innocent and shy girl stood before him. But instead of reacting to his attempts to intimidate him and to make him afraid, with obedience, the girl, who turned out to be Mare, drew her weapon and struck him directly on the head with his staff. Mare was a druid and a caster, not a melee fighter, but as a floor guardian he wasn't concerned about such a weak person. And one blow was all it took to eliminate Ivar. But his story didn't end there. The adventurer who despised Momon more than anything not only provided plenty of bodies, his former teammates, for Ainz to experiment on, but also unwillingly offered his own flesh and blood to the Overlord. Now broken, lying on the forest ground, he faced no special fate, no special treatment. The man who wanted to stand out from the crowd like no other was now just one more body to serve Ainz in his undead experiments. The Overlord didn't want to waste anything and was quite intrigued to learn that undead, created from the bodies of the living, remained permanently in this world, and therefore the dozens of dead from Team Kralgra, which Ivar led to their doom, despite his warning, came in handy. And when Ivar's own body was transformed into an undead, he of course still kept the bludgeoning damage engraved upon his shuddered and deformed skull. Hence why we know where Mare's staff hid, and hence why we know about the connection between the two beings to begin with. And this newly created thing was given the name Iguva 41, as it was the 31st experiment Ainz Ulgon had reanimated. Just one of many. But instead of turning him into a Death Knight or Death Warrior, a Death Assassin or a Soul Eater, Ainz decided to make this thing, this to him insignificant body, into an Elder Lich. The newly resurrected Iguva was now just another undead in the service of the soon-to-be Sorcerer King, but his essence, his soul, his dreams and wishes died with him, his flesh, now animated by the undead energy of the undead Overlord, now longed for nothing more than to serve Ainz Ulgon. The adventurer Ivar had become Iguva 41, the servant of Ainz Ulgon. And this Elder Lich met his second end at the hands of the lizardman Sarayusu Shasha, as a wanderer who had always stood outside of the traditional societal structure of the lizardmen. It was he who united the lizardmen villages behind a common cause, and heroically defended his now united land, his now united people, against the undead hordes of the Sorcerer King's first army. He used his last bit of strength to strike down the general of the 5,000-man strong undead army, the Elder Lich Iguva 41. In doing so, he became what Ivar had always wanted to be, a true hero, admired by all of his people. Just like the 13 heroes had beaten back the dark gods, Sarayusu Shasha had defended his people from the undead army and the Elder Lich of Ainz. Instead of becoming this very hero, Ivar died a second death as the evil Elder Lich, as the villain in his story. And in his final moments of consciousness, before his existence ended for a second time, his thoughts were of Ainz Ulgon, the Overlord who so kindly had created him, and whom he now bitterly disappointed through his failure. In his last moments, it was clear to him, he loved Ainz Ulgon. And with that rather weighty statement, I will end this video about Iguva 41 and the man who this Elder Lich once was. And now it's your turn. Let me know down in the comments what you think of Ivar's story and how the theocracy tries to manipulate an entire population, spreading their agenda through the Adventurer Guild. And as always, I say thank you very much for watching, thanks to all of my Patreons for supporting this channel, and special thanks to Ada Daddy Ada, ASK, Bad Guy Ye, Bad Burrito 316, Bezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 022 Ron, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Dan Pep, Dragonlord Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch V. Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishiki and Rai, Lord Touch Me, Lofrazer, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, O'Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Ruru, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Cune Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Sir Axolotl, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rock Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Zinukai, and Sonegon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.